What if everything you thought you knew about a seemingly perfect family was a lie? What if behind closed doors, the smiles, the vacations, the flawless Instagram posts were hiding something far darker? For years, the public believed that Kandi Burruss and Todd Tucker's marriage was untouchable. Two successful adults, a picture-perfect family, and children thriving in harmony. But according to Riley Burruss, the truth was never that simple. Riley has finally broken her silence, and what she reveals isn't gossip. It isn't drama. It's a calculated, hidden reality that the world never saw. She claims the divorce wasn't about money. It wasn't even about love. It was about control. A silent war had been waging inside their home, shaping the children, defining loyalties, and creating unseen rivalries. One parent focused on resilience, the other on strategy, one teaching comfort, the other survival. And the children? They were caught in the crossfire. Tonight, Riley exposes patterns, behaviors, and moments that the cameras never captured, moments that reveal manipulation, favoritism, and emotional power plays. This is more than a family breaking apart. This is a system quietly unraveling, and for the first time, the truth has a voice. Are you ready to see what really happened behind the doors of the Burruss-Tucker household? From the outside, the Burruss-Tucker household looked flawless. The vacations, the social media posts, the smiling family photos, all carefully curated, all seemingly effortless. But according to Riley Burruss, appearances were only a surface layer, hiding something far more calculated. Behind closed doors, the reality was far more complex, far more unsettling. A silent tension had been brewing for years, shaping interactions, loyalties, and even the children themselves. Riley describes a home divided not by chaos, but by structure, a structure that masked control as discipline, favoring one child over another, teaching survival over comfort. Todd Tucker, she says, wasn't absent. He was strategic. Every action, every decision, every lesson was measured. Love and guidance weren't given freely. They were conditional, rationed, and deliberately calibrated. Kandi Burruss, in contrast, approached parenting with nurturing intentions, focused on resilience, on building confidence and adaptability. The difference in approach wasn't just philosophical, it created a visible tension that rippled through the household. One parent's world demanded obedience and strategy, the other demanded empathy and growth, leaving the children to navigate conflicting rules, conflicting expectations, and conflicting loyalties. Small incidents became evidence of hidden favoritism. A gift, like a Porsche, once celebrated as generous, was perceived differently in the house. According to Riley, what seemed like generosity became proof of bias, proof that worth and recognition came from one parent alone. The children internalized these signals, consciously or not, creating rivalries that were never spoken about but felt in every family dinner, every holiday gathering, every casual conversation. The unspoken rules shaped behavior, creating alliances and silent resentments. The emotional cost was high. Riley recalls moments of quiet exhaustion where the effort of maintaining appearances was heavier than the love that should have accompanied it. Smiles were automatic, trust was conditional, and every minor disagreement was scrutinized, remembered, and subtly leveraged. The household functioned more like a system of measured outcomes than a home built on connection. Behind the cameras, behind the interviews, behind the public facade, power was quietly distributed and observed. Riley's decision to finally speak wasn't born of anger or desire for attention. It was born of exhaustion. Years of internalizing favoritism, of living within unspoken hierarchies, of observing emotional labor expected but rarely rewarded, reached a breaking point. Her words, when finally shared, didn't dramatize or sensationalize, they documented. Each revelation was a layer peeling back the carefully constructed image of a family, exposing a dynamic where control, influence, and survival were quietly contested every day. What the public perceived as a simple, elegant marriage ending was, Riley claims, a long-developing battle of influence and positioning. She narrates how the children were measured more than protected, how minor decisions carried emotional weight, how each interaction, each gift, Each online post could tilt perception, create division, and reinforce control. It was subtle, insidious, and methodical, a household where appearances remained intact while the internal equilibrium quietly fractured. And yet, Riley's insight goes beyond accusation. She identifies patterns, behavioral cues, and the slow escalation of emotional tension. She frames the narrative not as scandal, but as analysis. And the audience, once attuned to these cues, can begin to recognize the silent war that existed beneath the surface, a war of control, perception, and survival, quietly shaping everyone within its orbit. As Riley recounts the years inside the Burruss-Tucker household, the tension only grows more palpable. The earlier signs, once subtle, now appear deliberate in hindsight. Family dinners, holidays, and even casual gatherings were rarely about togetherness. Instead, they became exercises in positioning, each smile, each conversation, each reaction measured against invisible standards. One wrong word could shift perception, one small action could tip the balance of favor. And the children, Riley says, learned quickly. Survival wasn't about expressing feelings. It was about reading the room, anticipating outcomes, and understanding which parents' rules carried weight in each moment. Todd's approach, Riley claims, was calculated. Discipline was strategy, affection was selective, and every decision was intentional. Where the public saw a father balancing work and family, Riley saw a parent orchestrating outcomes, controlling behavior, testing loyalties, and reinforcing hierarchies. Kandi, on the other hand, built resilience and nurtured independence, teaching lessons of empathy and survival in subtle ways. The contrast wasn't just noticeable, it was defining. Children didn't simply follow rules, they navigated conflicting worlds, each parent's expectations layered upon the other, creating tension that only grew with time. And then there were the events that ignited visible fractures. Small gestures, like a gift or a comment, were interpreted as proof of favoritism. A Porsche, seemingly a generous gesture, became a symbol of who held sway and who was measured against invisible standards. Online posts and interactions amplified the subtle divides. Riley observed the patterns, how absence became a tool, how selective engagement reinforced hierarchies, and how even minor attention could shift power. The household wasn't loud in its conflict. It was surgical, deliberate, and almost invisible to outsiders. By mid-2025, the fracture lines became impossible to ignore. Todd didn't leave dramatically, he faded. Presence became absence, involvement became observation from a distance. Kandi's response, removing Todd's surname online, was understated but calculated. It wasn't branding, it was preparation. And the children? Riley describes how the sisters, Kayla and herself, were trapped in parallel yet divergent systems. Alliances formed, subtle rivalries hardened, and the emotional labor expected of them went unacknowledged. The house became a system, each member assigned roles and consequences, learning lessons not of love, but of survival. Riley's decision to speak out now, she emphasizes, isn't about betrayal or vendetta. It's about documenting patterns, the silent manipulations, the subtle cues, the psychological pressure that shaped daily life. It's a study in control, in power quietly exerted, and in survival strategies the children had to adopt. Every observation she shares serves as both revelation and warning that not all conflict is visible, not all struggle is loud, and not all influence is wielded in plain sight. The public narrative of a perfect, quietly dissolving marriage now contrasts sharply with the intricate, calculated reality Riley unveils. And as viewers begin to piece together the behavioral clues, the patterns become undeniable. What seemed like minor incidents, small conflicts, and casual posts are revealed as threads in a larger tapestry of emotional strategy, control, and silent competition. As the household settled into what outsiders perceived as a quiet separation, Riley reveals that the reality was far more intricate. Absence wasn't just physical, it was emotional architecture. Todd's fading presence left invisible vacuums, gaps where influence, control, and subtle authority had once dictated behavior. Kandi's measures, equally calculated, created counterbalances, nurturing resilience while simultaneously protecting herself from confrontation. The children, Riley explains, were caught in the crossfire of invisible forces, each day a lesson in navigating unspoken rules. It was in these silent corridors that the most profound impact emerged. Riley recalls moments when small interactions, a glance, a tone, a delayed response, carried more weight than overt arguments. One day's gift, one comment on social media, even the absence of recognition became symbolic. Each event layered tension, built invisible hierarchies, and shaped behavioral patterns that extended beyond childhood. The sisters' rivalry, Riley claims, was never born from malice, but from necessity, learning to survive under distinct, sometimes conflicting expectations. The fallout wasn't confined to the family alone. Tucker-related businesses experienced subtle tremors. Deals slowed. Partnerships paused. Energy drained from previously thriving ventures. Public perception remained one of a quietly dissolving marriage, but insiders noticed inconsistencies, who appeared in media, who suddenly stepped back, and how strategic absences shifted influence. Every detail, Riley suggests, was part of a larger, almost imperceptible design, a restructuring not just of relationships, but of power and legacy. And then came the moment of clarity for Riley. She realized that the narrative she had carried silently for years wasn't simply about a marriage ending. It was about a system of control and survival being dismantled piece by piece. Speaking out was no longer optional. Documentation became a shield, a record, and a warning. Every statement she made, every memory she shared, illuminated a carefully orchestrated sequence of influence, emotional maneuvering, and conditional affection. The lessons she learned weren't soft or gentle, they were calibrated for survival, teaching her to read people, anticipate consequences, and recognize power even when cloaked in silence. By the time the public began to process Riley's revelations, the story had shifted from personal conflict to a study in strategic manipulation. Absences, subtle cues, and online interactions, previously overlooked, now revealed patterns of deliberate orchestration. Riley's testimony reframes the entire perception. This was never simply about love lost or money divided. It was about navigating a household designed for performance, where every action carried weight, every reaction could be interpreted, and survival depended on awareness and precision. Ultimately, Riley's revelations expose a truth that transcends celebrity gossip. It's a psychological map of control, an examination of behavioral strategy, and a window into the nuanced dynamics of a family under pressure. The story isn't just about what happened. It's about how it unfolded, why it unfolded that way, and the silent lessons left behind for those who experienced it firsthand. And in that silent aftermath, the most unsettling realization emerges. Some systems don't collapse violently. They fade, they restructure, and they leave only echoes of what once was, waiting for someone brave enough to piece the patterns together. As Riley's revelations settle in, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. Silence can be as powerful as words. Every absence, every delayed message, every subtle shift in behavior wasn't random. It was deliberate. And the lesson for those watching closely is clear. Patterns speak louder than statements, and hidden dynamics often tell a story that public appearances can never reveal. For viewers following this saga, the takeaway is not just about a family or a marriage. It's about recognizing the invisible forces at play in relationships, in power structures, and in situations where control and survival intersect. Riley's courage to speak, not from anger, not for sympathy, but for clarity, offers insight into how influence operates behind closed doors and how perception can be carefully curated while reality quietly shifts beneath the surface. As the story continues to unfold, pay attention to the details others might miss. Watch for absences that feel deliberate, reactions that seem measured, and interactions that carry weight beyond their surface. Every pattern, every pause, every subtle cue could be a key to understanding the bigger picture. And while Riley's voice has broken years of silence, the echoes of these dynamics are far from over. If you want to stay ahead of the story, to see the patterns others overlook, and to uncover the truth that often hides behind the headlines, subscribe and stay tuned. The next revelations aren't going to appear in dramatic confessions. They'll emerge in the quiet moments, the overlooked details, and the carefully constructed moves of those who remain in the shadows. Because in a story like this, the loudest endings aren't announced. They're discovered. And those who pay attention will see the full picture before anyone else does. Don't miss what's coming next. The truth waits for no one, but it rewards those who notice.